Hello, my kohais. Hope you're all doing well. I'm your host, Tyranna Senpai, and welcome back to another episode of Prehistoric Kingdom Speed Builds. And today, we are building the Ankylosaurus enclosure, which is also the start of the Hell Creek sector portion of the park. Of course, I decided that we were going to be doing Ankylosaurus first because it was the newest dinosaur in the game. Of course, we're going to start off as usual, marking down the path, and then using that path to outline where the fence is going to be. Shockingly, Ankylosaurus doesn't need that tall of a fence. It needs to be a very strong fence, but it doesn't need to be that tall. But I guess it makes sense for an animal that's kind of squat and close to the ground, and that sort of deal. So we're just going to start off, with the small fence, and these guys actually don't need that much space either. They actually like a small enclosure. But I guess it makes sense for a dinosaur that's not as, sociable and, not as fast, I guess. I don't know. It's an interesting build, that's for sure. I do go back a couple times to fix the enclosure because I want them to be comfortable. But at the same time, I have to remember, these guys don't like a lot of... Well, they would like a lot of room. But I also have to remember, there are going to be a lot of animals in this park. So wherever I can save space, I'm going to find a way to do it. So I make the enclosure as small as I could possibly manage. And even then, at the size it is, it's still too big. It's like, I think the last measurement was like 6,000 square meters, whereas Ankylosaurus needs 2,000 for one male, one female. But hey ho, it's spacious enough for them, especially for what I have in mind for this particular build, which is going to be a boardwalk. I was looking up some designs, and I found one that really spoke to me. But as of now, we're just picking our Ankylosaurus, picking out the males, and, of course, the females. I should also mention, I did stream this build on Twitch. So, yeah, I'm now doing the actual building portion on Twitch. So if you guys want to catch me there, you can. We ended up with an albino Ankylosaurus. And considering the fact that we lost all of our mutated skin from the last update, I decided... I think it might be best if, I kept a new one. So, of course, we have an albino Ankylosaurus. And now we're just starting the idea of making sort of like this walkway. I thought of several ideas, and I also had some friends with me in the call to help me decide on, how to build this. They gave me some insight, and ultimately I settled for a corrugated metal sort of look with some metal railing over the side. Honestly, it turned out so nice. I can't wait for the final result because we don't actually finish this walkway. This walkway is going to go throughout most of the sector, aside from Tyrannosaurus, because, well, I don't want some stupid guest to fall in there and get munched. And I also, once again go against the modular prefab toggle thing, or whatever it's called, and actually try to make a curved sort of path going along. And it looks really nice. The smooth transition compared to the last sort of walkway I made the last time, much nicer. But anyway, I'm now blocking off this area because caution tape isn't a thing in the game. At least not yet. Hopefully it gets added. But that's going to be what keeps guests from falling over the edge. And now the bridge needs some structural support. One of my friends in the Discord called brought up that I should probably put like some sort of concrete over these struts to keep them from being, snapped by the Ankylosaurus tail. And honestly, I like the idea of this. I honestly think this would be like an actual thing used in a modern zoo with, a dinosaur. And I'm just going around and placing these down. I do remove the concrete from the two that actually connect to the very front of the walkway on the stairs. But that mostly comes down to the fact that I don't think an Ankylosaurus is going to be able to swing its tail that low. And now I'm just going through and copy and pasting and also, resizing them occasionally and twisting them around so they follow a nice transitional path along this boardwalk. It is tall enough for the Ankylosaurus to pass under, which was the goal all along, because I don't want the guests to, get whacked. And now I put down, the shelter, make sure they're able to get through, and some bedding. And then it's time to basically terrain paint. So how I normally do this is we start with like the grass of the biome. In this case, we're doing a wetland biome. And I also mark down paths that the dinosaurs would travel using, terrain paint. I know I bring this up every episode, especially for returning viewers. I get that it's annoying, but there might be a couple of new viewers that might be coming into the channel just now, and I figured, let them in the know of how I design it. I also gave them muddy water because, this is a wetland biome, so they would have some muddy water. And Hell Creek was a lot like Florida, and I wanted to try to make this enclosure a little bit like Florida because I did live there for a time. I lived there for 3 years before I moved back to where I live now, and I wanted to try to make it feel like home in a way. Yeah, I'm just following the albino Ankylosaurus that I changed the name of. I changed the name to Lillian. I think there's going to be at least one person that's going to be happy about that, I think. Yeah. And I'm just continuously following them. It's a boring process. It's a long process, especially considering Ankylosaurus isn't exactly a speed machine. It is a very slow dinosaur. But I also like that in the sitting animation or laying down animation, it does rollies. I know it was sped up, but if you go back, you can see it kind of like roll onto its side to scratch its back or something. And I thought it was adorable. And now I'm just, continuing to follow them. And the gaps where there's like grass and stuff, that's going to have just all kinds of vegetation. The path that I'm marking down won't have vegetation anywhere except along the edges. So, yeah, that's the plan. That's always been the plan. And really struggling to come up with commentary, especially considering this speed build is actually relatively short compared to the last one. I also marked down some hypothetical paths that they would take, considering, they're not going to go everywhere in the enclosure. They're going to travel to some selected areas. And now it was time to paint on some foliage. And the wetland biome has a lot of flowers and horsetails and stuff. So that's the main sort of like plant life that I was going to be using for this particular build. I did try to initially use the wetlands forest thing, but the problem with this is that there's only actually one type of tree, and that tree only has one variant. There's not more than one. It's the same model every time. So maybe the wetland biome might get an upgrade at some point, like the coastal did and stuff like that. I'm hoping they do, but I don't know. I was kind of hoping I could make like a proper forest for them, but that's all right. In the end, the enclosure looked a lot more like an open field with a bunch of flowers, a bunch of horsetails, and stuff like that. Very flowery, and I like how it turned out in the end. But of course, you'll get to see that in like 3 minutes, I guess. But now I'm just going through the enclosure and painting the entirety of it with these flowers, horsetails, and arrow roots. I think that's what they're called. And I do it throughout all the gaps, and the Ankylosaurus are actually pretty happy with this. And I was originally going to make this a lot more forested, because considering we have an albino. But they didn't really like that much forest, I guess. So, yeah, when making an Ankylosaurus enclosure, make sure that you have the proper, or really any dinosaur enclosure, make sure you have the proper, like, foliage covering and stuff like that. I could have probably gone and added, like a spa sort of area where it's like a mud bath and some umbrellas. But I want to wait to see if that will be an eventual enrichment item like they do for Planet Zoo, where, you know, certain animals will actually play in a mud pool. And now I'm going back and filling in the gaps in the paint with the terrain painting. Jeez, technical terms, right? And it looks a lot cleaner, much nicer. And now I'm gonna go through and place down some randomly chosen swamp trees. Hell Creek, I believe, is known to have cypress palms and stuff like that, so I decided to add some cypress trees. I don't think cypress palm is a thing. And I know that Florida, I took an airboat to when we first moved there. I know for a fact that they had cypress because they were along the water's edge. And I also add some horsetails instead of the typical cattails or foxtails, you know, to add some variety to plant life. And I also go back and place down the trees in more spaced out areas where I think they're needed, because the Ankylosaurus can no longer take any more plant. So there's that. Also, with the new update, with this new hotfix, a lot of the animals' enclosures, well, I say a lot, but only a few, had to be changed to either remove plants or add plants. So there might be a couple changes you might notice in this build. Maybe not, I don't know. For another touch, I wanted to add a sort of dead tree in the water to add some layer of realism. So it looks a little bit more, you know, authentic, I guess. I move the feeder around a little bit so it's in a proper zone, like away from all the vegetation. And all that's left to do now is just add some lily pads to, you know, make this feel even more alive, I guess. And I do this for a little bit, and that is actually the last thing I do for this particular build. This isn't a necessarily fast build, but it's a cool enclosure nonetheless. And also, it's a good start to the Hell Creek Formation sector of the park. So with that out of the way, let's check out Ankylosaurus Garden. And here we are, folks, Ankylosaurus Garden. As far as the tour goes, this is all we got for the boardwalk. You know, the guests can come up here. We have to cut it up here, because this is eventually going to stretch out to a different part of the park. I'm imagining we're going to curve around here and go that way at some point. And then, of course, there are going to be benches and stuff for the guests to sit on while they're here. And they do come up here, as you can clearly see from this lady who's having... Was that a lady? I don't freaking know, dude. But yeah, they can come over here and watch as these graceful giants come over and feed. Oh, look at them eat. It's so cute. It's adorable. But anyway, the keepers would come through this little gate over here. They would walk around. That's their little shelter over there for them to sleep in. They walk around. They go under the bridge. And this is where, you know, they'd replenish the ankylosaur food. Really lovely stuff. And also, I'm happy to say they fixed the glitch where the animals get stuck on water. All they really need to fix now is the dinosaurs not feeding from the feeders, except when you first load the save or after you move the feeder a couple times. So that still needs to be fixed. You said it, buddy. We got a lot of flowers here. We got cypress trees. And this is their pond that they can drink from. It's not very deep. I don't want these guys to drown. Oh, but saying that, this could be smoothed out a little bit. There we go. And then go around. There's a dead tree. Maybe they could scratch their armor on this. It's very simple but design. I didn't go too crazy with this one. Oh. You're a drinky. Yeah, you said it. But anyway, that is Ankylosaurus Gardens. So the next enclosure we're going to build, I think it's going to be over here. That's going to be our Edmontosaurus and Triceratops enclosure. I'm going to put the two of them together. And then after that, it will be time for the Tyrannosaurus. So yeah, if you're looking forward to that, and just Prehistoric Kingdom speed builds in general, leave a like, subscribe today, hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything new. All my links are in the link tree in the description down below. And until next time, this is Tyrannosaurus signing off. Alright then, take care now. Bye-bye then.